name is Andy Taylor. I am a home brewer.
My name is James Carlisle. I'm a sales and marketing director, if you want to call it that, for Texas Homebrewers.
Well, my name is Joshua Haley, and I'm the founder of Texian Brewing Company in Richmond, Texas.
I've been brewing beer for about 5 or 6 years.
Been brewing for about 3 years.
As of this month, Texian is 2 years old.
Actually, it's at this point kind of like an epidemic. Everyone wants to try the newest and latest and the greatest. And that's kind of what gets people into home brewing is going out and trying all these different crafted, craft beers.
Is craft beer becoming more popular because more people are getting into homebrew? Or are more people getting into homebrew because craft beer is more popular? Or is it other factors? I think as far as Texas goes, it's just that wave is finally making it here.
I think right now you're seeing a big movement towards quality throughout all the food industries, both with artisanal cheeses, artisanal meats, organic poultry and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. And I think that people are more interested in quality than they are in quantity. It's not so much about how fast you can grow a chicken, but how good you can make it taste. And it's the same thing with beer. Instead of just the beer being a vehicle for alcohol, like in a lot of mass-produced beers, you want it to be more of a vehicle for flavor.
My number one advice I give homebrewers before you make the leap, or if you're thinking about homebrewing, is to reach out to a local homebrew club.
Find a homebrew club. They're all over the place. But find one in your local area. Go and join it. That's really the best way to learn and to progress, because you've got your peers trying and sampling your beers.
Houston has 7 or 8 magnificent homebrew clubs where they're not only a good group of folks who are very knowledgeable and experienced, but also very willing to teach.
And they're all kind of in it for the same thing. Everyone wants to drink good homebrew, so everyone's always willing to help you answer questions or critique. So that's the biggest piece of advice that I give any homebrewer is to join a local homebrew club.
All you need is a 2 or 3 gallon pot and your stove, and then maybe a bucket of ice and a glass carboy, a glass jug to ferment your beer in. So you could do it for as little as $60 to $70. You could go all out and spend $2,000 if you wanted to build a custom all-grain kit.
Once the beer is finished being boiled, you have to cool it down to a low enough temperature so that when you put the yeast in it, the yeast won't immediately be killed. One way to do that is to put the kettle in a big pot of ice and stir it for 45 minutes, or an immersion chiller, and that speeds up the process of chilling down the wort to a temperature where you can actually put the yeast in it.
One of the things that I recommend to any new home brewer is fermentation control as far as temperature goes when you're fermenting your beer. Having some type of dedicated chest freezer or refrigerator or something like that with a controlled temperature makes any beer that tastes good taste great.
There are folks who win competitions with just a stovetop system, and there are folks who win competitions with the full-blown, fully automated system. So it really comes down to personal preference, how much time, energy, and money that you personally want to invest. Well, your basic homebrew, and all beer for that matter, is made up of 4 key ingredients. That's malt, which in the form of an all-grain kit is wheat and barley, or in an extract kit is an extracted sugar. So they've done the work and taken that sugar out of the grain and given it to you in a packaged gel form. Water, easily available. Your yeast, which is what eats that sugar, and then your hops, which gives the beer the flavor and the bitterness. So those 4 main ingredients are available at every local homebrew shop, or even some of the larger homebrew shops online, and they'll ship right to your door.
So there's really no rules. I've put kiwi in beer, I've put persimmons in beer, I just brewed a beer that has alfalfa hay in it. So there's no rule.
One of the hot things is adding fruit to beers. A great example of that is Summer Sandia, our summer beer that we do that has watermelon in it. People like to add blackberries or raspberries to their beer.
Pumpkin. I brewed an imperial pumpkin stout, and I included 6 pounds of pumpkin puree in it. And so the yeast used the sugars that they found in the pumpkin to convert that out into alcohol, and it was a really nice beer. Also included like pumpkin pie spices in it.
If you like tart or sour beers, you can add souring bacteria, which is the stuff that's found in yogurt, and it will give you a tartar, drier beer. Really, the sky's the limit. If you want to add chocolate or coffee, feel free to try it. That's part of the fun of homebrewing, is the experimentation. Brewers are always constantly coming out with something unique. A good example of that is the oyster stout. Oyster stout is a classic style that paired well with oysters, until one day some decided, hey, let's actually put oysters in an oyster stout, threw them in the bowl kettle. Brewery on the Northeast one day decided, let's do a lobster stout, threw a lobster in the bowl kettle. A brewery in Colorado last year for GABF threw a Rocky Mountain oyster stout. Decided to throw Rocky Mountain oysters, and I think it was 3 balls per barrel was their motto. So, you always find something interesting.
Well, step one, of course, is to clean everything really clean. Then we're going to heat some water up to about 172 degrees. We're going to pour that water into the thermos with all of the grains in it, and it's going to steep there for about an hour. We're going to remove that wort to the kettle, and we're going to boil it. And during the boil, there's going to be additions of hops that will be added during the boil. Once that's done, we will cool the wort down to approximately 70 degrees, mid 70s, and then it goes into the fermenter, and then we add the yeast into the fermenter at that time, and then bottle it up and wait for the yeast to do their work.
Most people starting off, they'll bottle.
Which is not what I like to do, because there's so much work to do in the bottles. Your typical home brew is going to go in about 40 bottles, and each one of those bottles has to be cleaned and sanitized, and then each one has to be individually capped.
They have mini kegs, which are about 1.25 gallons. My favorite is actually kegging your beer.
And I like to keg it, so it'll go all at one time into a big keg. I don't have to worry about priming it to create the carbonation. I can do that using a tank of CO2.
You get a chance to build a nice kegerator at the house, and plus it looks cool.
I think really brewing for me is a natural extension of the fact that I like to cook. And the thing I like to do when I cook, I don't like to cook a big meal and then sit there and eat it by myself. The idea is to cook and share, to have friends over and to share with them, hey, look what I made, look what I did. And so beer is just an extension of that.
You pour a pint of beer at your house and you give it to someone who hasn't tried it yet, and like the look on their face of them just being like, wow, this is amazing. That's really what it kind of comes down to. It's okay, well, I made that, with my own hands, developed the recipe, all that good stuff.
It's addicting. Once you do it, you fall in love with it, and it's a product that you can share.
The idea is to create a delicious beer and have your friends come over and share it with you. It's always better that way. Mistakes are going to happen during the brew. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong. Just keep plugging away, and eventually, it may take you a couple of times, but eventually you'll start brewing good beer. And when that happens, it's very rewarding.